It's a huge transition to leave the military. You really feel like you're part of a mission, right? Of course you're part of a mission. You're there to protect America, and we all have our individual sort of unit missions as well. And you're told when to get up, you're told where to work, you're told what to wear, where to shop, even kind of where to go to church, like everything is sort of taken care of in your life. And everybody speaks the same language. And so when you leave, there's a real loss there, because you feel like nobody around you when you come back into the civilian world really understands what you went through.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive in our lives. Well, we have a great topic today with our guest here. It is about veterans. Many of us may be unsure on how to communicate with a veteran, what best to say to veterans, or, why is it important for veterans to be in our community, and what we can learn from them when they come home after serving and sacrificing so much that many of us wouldn't even have a clue. I want to welcome to the show Jill Wolfe today from Kent County Veteran Services, and she is going to be talking about many things that maybe people are like, what, I want to know what best to say to a veteran and how to appreciate what sacrifice they make. And so welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pamela. I'm very excited to be here.
Share a little bit. You have a friend here that you've brought with you.
This is my
Jill.
employee. This is Hannah. She's my service dog. So in 2016, I was diagnosed with a rare genital condition called retinitis pigmentosa. I tell people I lost the genetic lottery. It had nothing to do with my service.
Okay.
But it's basically made me legally blind, and I will continue, Hannah, lay down, to lose my vision.
How far out of the service did you decide when this happened? You started discovering
I got out in '98, and this happened in 2016, so It was a while.
So did you see it? Did you start noticing?
I didn't. The first thing I noticed, and this happens with this disease, is that I couldn't see very well in the dark. But I figured nobody could see very well in the dark.
Right.
And so, my husband sort of, we had sort of a few funny conversations about it. But basically I went to the optometrist, and he said, I think you should go have this looked at. And so, yeah, it was pretty devastating when it happened. But I was declared legally blind in 2020. So I have about 10 degrees of central vision. Most people have about 90, 100, 120 around there.
Okay.
So I can do pretty well with looking straight ahead, but I have almost no peripheral vision. So, and I can't see at all in the dark, so.
Being a writer and everything that you did, especially being part of the, being a veteran too, it's like that must have been shocking.
It was, but I think my military service really prepared me for this hardship. I thought, and I saw this when I sort of started doing research on RP, is what we call it for short, was that there were people that just said, well, I'm just going to give up. My life is over. I'm never going to be able to do anything again. And I thought, well, that doesn't seem very helpful.
It doesn't.
And I just thought, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to see what I can accomplish, and we'll just see how it goes. And I'm not going to lay down and just give up. And I feel like I still have more to give. And in fact, I would say, since I've been diagnosed, it's been an adventure, like to learn how to see in a different way. I've met so many amazing people. Being able to work with Hannah and have the dog has just been an incredible opportunity. And so I think my military service really sort of prepared me to be able to look at hardship in a different way.
Well, those people automatically think something happened to you when you were serving?
I'm not sure. Sure.
I think I would if I first met you and I knew you were a veteran. I'm
sure.
Like, oh, I wonder if something happened to her.
Yeah. And that makes sense, but people are pretty good about not delving into the details of your medical condition. So when I have the opportunity to talk about it, I'm happy to. But usually we have other things that we're getting to.
Well, yeah, people want to be, they want to be polite, and they don't want to be nosy. How long have you had Hannah? Is this the same that you got?
Yep. So I got Hannah about 2.5 years ago. So I worked with Leader Dogs for the Blind out of Rochester Hills in the Detroit area.
Okay.
Incredible organization. And I will say too, when I found out that I was going legally blind, clearly I was devastated and it was hard. But one of the cool things was that it turns out the Blind Veterans of America is a very powerful lobby group.
Okay.
And so I didn't qualify for benefits, military benefits, when I first got out of the military because I wasn't injured. I was in kind of right between the two Gulf Wars. But there's a provision that says if you go legally blind, even after your service, we will take care of you. And so I have since been covered by military health care. There's the Visor Clinic down in Battle Creek has been incredible in supporting me. They've gotten me night vision goggles so I can continue to go camping and backpacking and those things that I love. So when I joined for that 3 years back when I was 19, I had no idea that having done that, it would have supported this vision loss later in my life that I never could have foresaw. So.
Wow. But who is Jill Wolfe?
Hi. So my name is Jill Hinton Wolfe. I am the former director at Grand Valley State University for the Military Veterans and Resource Center. So I was the founding director there.
Okay.
And have since left to do some more writing and speaking and basically advocating for veterans. I joined the Army in 1995 against my parents' wishes. I flipped a coin because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life and ended up joining for 3 years. Served a year in San Antonio, Texas at Kelly Air Force Base there, and then 14 months in Korea. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite a career.
Right.
In that one. I bet you learned a lot.
I did. I always like to say my military service, one of the most important things it taught me was what I didn't want to do for the rest of my life. So it was wonderful and it was such an honor and I appreciate that service. After I got out, I went back to Grand Valley and got my degree in advertising and PR.
Okay.
And worked in the corporate world for a while before leaving to go start my own business. So I was an entrepreneur. I ran a business, adventure travel business for women for a few years, which evolved into a team building business. And then when COVID hit, I shut down the business and was hired at Grand Valley. So
okay.
That's kind of the background on me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about you as you just gave the highlights of your life. Can you just share what was your parents' concern? Because there's a lot of women that do join the military, and especially if they want to maybe get some college fund, a lot of people do it for that. But what was your parents' concern? Is this, they didn't understand the military? What was the?
I think it was just so unexpected. I came from a pretty upper middle class background. We had really no military people in our family. And I had actually come home for Thanksgiving my freshman year of college, and they said if they wanted me to get a job, and said if I didn't get a job that they would not pay for me to go back for the next semester, which was just 6 weeks away. And so a recruiter with some kind of incredible timing called right as they were leaving and said, how would you like $30,000 for college? And I said, you know what, let's talk. And
oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I didn't tell my parents about it till I was until I had signed the papers and raised my right hand to defend the Constitution. And I think they were just kind of surprised. And at the time they were like, we'll pay for college. And I said, nope, you know what, I want to do this myself. So that's how that happened.
Were you looking for adventure? Were you looking for something different? Get out of your little, I guess, bubble as we all grow up?
I think at that age, so I was 19, you're really going through a huge transition period, right? You're not a kid anymore, but you still don't really feel like an adult. But I did know that what I wanted to do with my life, I wanted it to matter. And at least at that time in college, I didn't feel like I was doing anything that really mattered that much. And so it became the opportunity for me to do something meaningful and purposeful with my life. I think showed a little, probably more self-awareness than I had, at age 19.
Right.
But it was important for me to, one, be able to pay for college by myself, and also to be able to sort of strike out on my own and find a place in the world where I felt like I could make an impact and a difference.
And was it?
I think so. My first duty station, I was actually in public affairs. So even though I had been trained to be a military intelligence soldier, I got to my first duty station and volunteered to write an article for the newspaper. I'm a writer by birth, I guess is one way to put it, but also by trade.
Sure.
And the crusty old sergeant there at headquarters said, here's your camera, here's the computer, give me your paperwork, signed off. And so I got to work in public affairs, and I feel like really made a difference. You know, when you're in a military intelligence unit, there's a lot you can't really talk about.
Right.
But I could talk about the soldiers and what they were doing and the things that they were passionate about, and promote them and their mission. And I think it did make a difference. I like to think it did.
Well, that's wonderful too, because I know a lot of, you know, females that went into the military, as I'm pretty seasoned compared to you, so you meet more and more people. All right, so let's talk about some of the things you have going. All right, so you are part of the Kent County Veterans Services, right?
Right, so Kent County has a Veteran Services Administration, and I'm the vice chair of the advisory board there. So they like to have veterans on the board to sort of help guide and prioritize how the county spends money when it comes to veterans.
Yeah, and then you have, so one of the questions that I wanted to ask, because I want to talk about your TED Talk also, and I really enjoyed listening to that. So if anybody, you know, we could put the link below, but, you know, so the art of being a veteran, how to find meaning and purpose after service. Now that's the difference of things. So were you were talking about on TED Talk, something like when you got out of the service, correct? Mm-hmm. And what you went through. Can you just share a little bit of some of that was going on? Because that's a big deal.
Right. It's a huge transition to leave the military. You really feel like you're part of a mission, right? Of course you're part of a mission. You're there to protect America, and we all have our individual sort of unit missions as well. And, you know, you're told when to get up, you're told where to work, you're told what to wear, where to shop, even kind of where to go to church, you know, like everything is sort of taken care of in your life. And everybody speaks the same language. And so when you leave, there's a real loss there, because you feel like nobody around you when you come back into the civilian world really understands what you went through. And you really have a different way of seeing the world. So I know I struggled when I came out. I had a new baby, I was in a new marriage, and I was adjusting to civilian life, and it was just really, really difficult to come back to school with all of that going on. I was 21, 22 years old, so it was tough.
So you were in there for just 3 years, 4 years?
Just 3 years.
Is that what I mean, you didn't want to re-up, you had your experience?
Well, like I said, I enjoyed my time in the military, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do for a career. It gave me a great foundation, it gave me a good start, but I knew that I wanted to go back and get my degree, that I wanted to write, and I wasn't sure that the military was going to be right for me long term.
Well, okay, so you come home. What happens, especially you know this, with veterans coming home, you're not the same person anymore. You've just had this huge experience that people probably wouldn't understand. Even people that went to college and come back probably doesn't understand it. So what was it like?
Well, it was, like I said, very difficult, and I really struggled with my boss. You know, I didn't have a ton of money when I came back. We were in college at the time, and that was before the post 9/11 GI Bill, which really today, those soldiers that are coming back get a lot more sort of financial support. But at that time in '95, they kind of just really paid for school. And so it was just kind of a struggle all around. It wasn't really until I was asked to be part of a conference for women veteran entrepreneurs that I started hanging out with veterans again. And I just remember feeling this sense of relief and like I could be myself. And I just immediately fell in love with these women, and they were so supportive of what I was doing, and it made me want to support what they were doing. And I thought, I want to do more of this kind of work, because I believe these individuals are just incredible, have incredible potential, and I want to do everything I can to support whatever their dreams and the ways that they want to make an impact in the world.
So you started to notice when you were around everybody that they didn't have the knowledge what they should services, right? Because you kind of help. It's like a mission. You try to help them navigate to get the services they deserve. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So what did you start to discover why you went into this?
So a lot of veterans, we asked them at Kent County Veteran Services, did you serve? Because if you ask somebody if they're a veteran, a lot of times they think, well, I didn't serve in combat, or I was just part of the National Guard, or they make all sorts of excuses to believe that they aren't actually veterans. But if you served in the U.S. military, if you made it through boot camp and you have a DD-214 or you have the paperwork that says you served in the National Guard, you are a veteran and you qualify for certain benefits for that.
Okay.
And so I want to make sure that those veterans know that they have access to mental health care. They have access to scholarships and money that can help them with their education. If they have a injury that they sustained during their service that is service connected, we can help them get financial support to help, with those disabilities. And so many of us suffered our knees and our ears and all sorts of different, PTSD is something I know we talk a lot about in the veteran community. I want to make sure that we don't stereotype all veterans as being ticking time bombs of
Right, I
of
was afraid of that too.
PTSD,
Yes.
but it is a thing. And so if you have service-connected disabilities, the county can help you walk through that paperwork and make sure that you're getting the benefits that you deserved and that you earned by serving in the military.
Well, isn't some of the PTSD, is it there's severities of it, right? Depends on how much you probably saw or how you cope with it when you come back. But what about do you see some healing with veterans that just kind of connect like you did? You got to be with people that now it was kind of like, you start to get back to the military, but at home, if that makes sense. I'm trying to put this
Right. No, I think what you're getting at is that what I find with a lot of veterans is they have a lot of emotions that they've bottled up and they've decided that nobody wants to hear and nobody wants to see. And so they pack them down. And it can be years. Mm-hmm. And so when you get around other veterans and they create that safe space, they understand what you've gone through. They speak that same language and you're able to talk about those emotions in a place that's safe, where you feel like you belong and you feel connected. That's really the first step to being able to get help for yourself and being able to work through those issues. So certainly you need to be working with a professional because they're the ones that can really make sure that you're getting the help that you need and that you can live the life that makes you happy, right? And that you are contributing to the world. I think that's a big problem with a lot of veterans. They knew they were contributing when they were in the service. They don't feel like they're always doing it once they get out again. So just, again, having that safe space and being able to talk about your emotions is such a huge thing for many veterans, and very few of them get the opportunity to do it.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that is true. That is true. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people that work with veterans, and, some do the suicide prevention, some deal with the families afterwards. I mean, there's all these, there's several nonprofits. If I was a veteran, I'd be like, okay, sometimes males, not all, some females hold it in too. They just seem to think that they can deal with it until it comes out somewhere else. You find out they're an alcoholic or they're, they can't keep their job down or, you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
They burst in, they get anger issues. It's not like they're abusive, but they can get upset.
They can, yep. And all of that has to do with bottling up those emotions and having nobody to talk to. I mean, and let's face it, our country has a problem, right? We're all lonely and we all miss that connection. It's not just veterans that struggle with this. But unfortunately, the way we were sort of raised by the military makes us even more susceptible to not wanting to talk about our feelings and thinking that we can solve our problems ourselves, which nobody. When I was in the military, we had cooks, we had, drivers, we had mechanics, we had medical people. We had a whole team that would support our unit. And it's really no different once you get out of the military. You need to ask for help. You need support in making a great life for yourself.
Well, too, and I think we glamorize sometimes past wars. Vietnam's a little different, but that they didn't. The men just came home and went back to work, and they didn't talk about it. Mm-hmm. We don't know if they had terrible marriages, lives, or abuse. We don't know. We only hear that my dad never talked about it, and I know many relatives that never talked about it. So not till when they got to be like in their 80s before they left us, they actually started sharing stories. I was amazed at how many of them went through so much and never talked about it.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm just going to put in a plug here. There's a project funded by Congress called the Veterans History Project. And Grand Valley State, Dr. Smithers in the history department will record veteran stories for them. And they are desperate to get these stories, especially for Korean War veterans. We're losing more and more of them every day.
Right, yeah.
But even Gulf War veterans, both 1 and 2, and Afghanistan, they want to hear those experiences. And we need those stories to be told for future generations, and for you to be able to share what your experiences were in the chow hall, like, you know, what it was like to be deployed, all those kinds of things. It's really important that we hear those stories, and I would really recommend and encourage veterans to reach out and tell those stories, because future generations are going to want to hear them.
Yeah, I believe that. I love, to be honest, I watch a lot of documentaries on veterans. Okay, so what? So why is it important? I mean, why do veterans need community? It's because we kind of went over that, but maybe you want to share it, because, you know, I love to see if there's someone in my community or how else I can serve. But why is it so important that they need community? And I think it's just like you said, it was lonely, but you know.
You're right. You know, the fact that they're just, it means a lot to be around people that understand you, right? And
Right.
As a veteran, I will say I didn't love everybody that I served with, right? We all weren't, you know, just on the same page all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
But to my point earlier, I do feel like on some level we're siblings. And for veterans, we have community built in. We understand it, right? And when we lose that, it's really hard. And to find it again does feel like coming home. And so I do encourage veterans to reach out to the VFW, to your American Legion. If you're a younger post 9/11 vet, look up Team RWB, Red, White, and Blue. They do runs and athletic stuff together, and it doesn't matter how slow you are, like they're no man left behind kind of thing. Kent County Veteran Services has a great women veterans program. And let me tell you, for women veterans to find other women veterans, like I said, it was life-changing for me. And so to find that community where you feel like you belong and you can show up and the people understand, it's just really important.
All right, so let's talk about your book that you're planning on putting out. Why did you want to write a book, and what's the purpose of it?
Right, so I'm a writer. I've always been writing, but one of the things that I found through my work with veterans and working with civilians who want to support veterans is that there's a lot of myths out there. And one of the most important things I want veterans to know is that even though they have struggled and that transition is really hard, there's still more left for them to do in this country.
Yeah.
And I've kind of figured out that there's sort of three elements that really seem important if you're a veteran that wants to make an impact in the world. And the first is having a mission or a life purpose. And I talk a little bit about this in my TED Talk. To have something to get up for every morning and feel like you're helping other people.
I think everybody needs that.
Everybody
right?
needs that.
Yes.
You're right. And so to have that purpose and that mission that you're working towards something is really important. And then I talk about tribe too, which is the community, right? You need to have tribe and community. You know, we're human beings, we're built that way.
Right.
So we need that social support. And then finally, there is grace, right? Which is this idea of self-compassion, which veterans are just so bad at, right? We're really, really hard on ourselves. But personally, my journey could not be what it is today if I had not managed to figure out how to cut myself some slack and to give myself grace and self-compassion. And it has freed me up from so much self-criticism and self-hate so that I can get out into the world and actually make an impact and not spend so much time beating myself up. And I want to teach more veterans about that.
Well, I didn't realize that they were, I mean, I do see them sharing their stories and stuff like that, but actually beating themselves up, and which is, it feels awful for me that they would do that, right? It was like, because I'm so grateful that they were able to serve. And you said right there in the TED Talk, it's better to, they sacrificed instead of the word sorry. That caught me right away, because I am around a lot of military people. On Veterans Day, we go, you know, to all this, you know, all the ceremonies and events. Now I should say, thank you for your sacrifice, instead of saying thank you for your service.
I think that shows a sort of going beyond just saying the pat answer. For a lot of veterans, it's sort of, I don't want to say embarrassing, but it's awkward when people say thank you for your service. It's what everybody says, and that's fine, and we appreciate that. But I think that if you really want to go beyond, you can say thank you for your sacrifice. And it doesn't matter whether you served, you know, in an office in Battle Creek or if you were kicking down doors in Fallujah, you sacrificed to be part of the military.
That's a good point. That's
And
a very good point.
it's important that we recognize that sacrifice, whether, you know, you put off marriage or your family, you know, sacrifice not having you there, that sacrifice is always there. Another thing I always tell people to do is just ask veterans about their experience. I think people are sometimes hesitant. They don't want to pry, but I think there are easy questions like, what branch did you serve in? And
Right.
what was your job? And were you ever sent anywhere? Because typically I have found once you get veterans started telling their stories, you cannot get them to shut up. So
That is true.
Yeah.
I will say they're very, and if they feel safe around you and trust you, they will share even more. So why don't you, Jill, we're going to wrap this up. So why don't you share with our audience there, how they can reach you.
Sure.
If they know a veteran that's struggling, and if you could navigate them through, get them to the right places so they can get some help.
Sure. So what I would suggest is if you want to get in contact with me, I would love to hear from you. My website is jillhinton.com, and you'll have a link to that, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a very easy way to connect with me there. If you're a veteran in Kent County, and when I say veteran, you served in the military, reach out to Kent County Veteran Services and see how they might be able to help you. They've got grants, they've got funding, food vouchers, programs for families, all sorts of things that they can help with. So I highly suggest just Google Kent County Veteran Services, give them a call. They're the nicest, friendliest people. Ask them your dumbest questions and they will be happy to answer them.
Well, that is true. I know people that use the Kent County Veteran Services, and they say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was out there in the park. I drove somebody, and I was standing in the parking lot, and they were coming. The guard was, hey, hi, how are you? They were just so friendly to me, and I thought, well, this is nice.
Right.
All right, we want to thank Jill Wolfe for being here today. And is there anything else you want to share that I missed? Anything?
I just so appreciate you asking me to be here, and thank you very much. And yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. This is Pamela Keim from WCET Media, and we will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.